Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with a story that matters. Lena Harper, a black attorney in her 50s, carries herself with a quiet grace that hides a fierce resolve. In the heart of Atlanta, she faces a moment that tests her dignity, a moment where prejudice rears its ugly head and her strength begins to shine. Before we begin, please like the video and subscribe, but only if stories like this truly move you. Comment your city and the time you are watching. Now close your eyes or don't, it's your choice, Waishu. Either way, you're about to witness something real. The Atlanta sun hangs low, painting Piedmont Park in hues of gold and amber. Children's laughter dances through the air, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of joggers' footsteps. Lena Harper sits on a weathered bench by the lake, her sketchbook open on her lap. Her pencil moves with deliberate care, tracing the curve of a willow tree's branches. At 53, she's a woman who commands respect in courtrooms, her sharp mind and steady voice dismantling weak arguments with ease. But here in this moment, she's just Lena, artist, dreamer, seeker of peace. Her gray blouse catches the breeze, and her braided hair gleams under the fading light. The park is her refuge, a place where the weight of her caseload fades, if only for an hour. She doesn't notice the police cruiser at first. Its tires crunch against the gravel path, a sound swallowed by the park's lively rhythm. Two officers step out, their boots heavy on the ground. Officer Mark Reynolds, mid-30s, has a square jaw and eyes that scan the crowd with suspicion. His partner, Officer David Holt, younger but no less stern, adjusts his belt, the clink of his holster sharp in the air. Their gazes sweep the park, landing on Lena. She's alone, her focus on her sketch, unaware of the weight now settling on her. Ma'am, Reynolds calls, his voice cutting through the park's hum. Heads turn, joggers slow. A mother glances up from her stroller. Lena lifts her eyes, her pencil pausing mid-stroke. Her brow furrows slightly, but her expression remains calm, practiced. Yes, she replies, her tone polite but firm, like she's addressing a client. We need to talk, Holt says, stepping closer. His hand rests near his radio, a subtle but deliberate gesture. Got a report of suspicious activity around here. The words hang heavy, laced with an accusation that doesn't need spelling out. Lena's pulse quickens, but her face betrays nothing. She closes her sketchbook slowly, her fingers lingering on its worn cover. I'm just sketching, she says, holding up the book. The willow tree's half-finished form stares back, innocent and unthreatening. ID Reynolds demands, his tone clipped. A small crowd gathers, their murmurs a soft undercurrent. An older man frowns, his dog tugging at its leash. A young woman pulls out her phone, her thumb hovering over the record button. Lena's jaw tightens, but she reaches into her bag with measured grace. May I ask what this is about? She says, her voice steady despite the heat rising in her chest. Routine check. Holt snaps, through his eyes say otherwise. He takes her driver's license, scanning it with exaggerated scrutiny. Lena Harper, he reads aloud, a faint sneer curling his lip. What's your business here, Miss Harper? The question lands like its shape, its subtext clear. You don't belong. Lena inhales deeply, her fingers curling around the edge of her sketchbook. I live in Atlanta, she says. I'm enjoying the park. Is that a problem? Reynolds steps closer, his shadow falling over her. We'll decide that, he says. The crowd's murmurs grow louder, a mix of curiosity and unease. The young woman with the phone starts recording, her lens catching the glint of Lena's gold earrings. You always carry a sketchbook like that? Holt asks, his tone mocking. You waiting for someone? The questions pile on, each one sharper, digging at her composure. Lena's heart pounds, but she holds their gaze. She's faced hostile judges, skeptical juries, and clients who doubted her skill. This is different, raw public, rooted in a prejudice she knows too well. I'm not answering unless you tell me what I'm accused of, she says, her voice low but unyielding. The officers exchange a glance, their patience thinning. Reynolds grabs her arm, his grip firm. Don't play smart, he growls. You're resisting. Resisting. Lena's voice rises, shock breaking through her calm. I'm sitting on a bench. The crowd gasps, the young woman's phone steady as she captures every word. Holt snaps handcuffs around Lena's wrists, the cold metal biting into her skin. Her sketchbook falls to the ground, pages fluttering open to the willow tree. Move, Reynolds orders, pulling her toward the cruiser. Lena's legs move, but her mind races. Humiliation burns in her throat, yet her eyes remain dry, fixed on the horizon. The cruiser's door slams shut, sealing her in the back seat. The park fades, its colors muted through the tinted window. Lena's wrists ache, the cuffs too tight, but she sits tall, her spine rigid. The officer's voices drift through the partition casual, as if this is just another day. Thinks she's clever, Hope mutters. Reynolds chuckles low and mean. Lena stares at her reflection in the window, her face a mask of resolve. Some truths linger, waiting to be unveiled. She thinks the thought a quiet anchor. At the station, the booking process is a blur of harsh lights and colder voices. They fingerprint her photograph, her strip away her earrings and watch. Enjoy your stay, Holt says, smirking as he locks the holding cell. The door clangs shut, echoing in the sterile room. Lena sits on the bench, her hands clasped tightly. The fluorescent buzz drills into her skull, but she forces herself to breathe. She replays the park, the officer sneers, the crowd stares, the willow tree left behind. Anger simmers, but so does something else, purpose. Hours crawl by. A young officer barely out of training approaches with a clipboard. Harper, you're charged with resisting arrest and obstructing an officer, he says, avoiding her eyes. On what grounds? Lena asks, her voice sharp enough to make him flinch. You'll see in court, he mumbles, retreating. Lena leans back, her mind already mapping the fight ahead. She knows the law, knows the flimsiness of their charges. But she also knows the deeper battle against a system that sees her skin before her skill. Her colleague Sarah Nguyen arrives to post bail. Sarah's face is a storm of worry and fury as she spots Lena in the station's dim hallway. Lena, are you okay? She asked, her voice cracking. Lena nods, though her hands tremble slightly. I'm fine, she says, the lie bitter on her tongue. They walk to Sarah's car, the Atlanta night thick with humidity. Sarah grips the wheel, glancing at Lena. This is wrong, she says. You don't deserve this. No one does, Lena replies, her voice soft but edged with steel. The city lights blur past a kaleidoscope of neon and shadow. Lena's fingers trace the empty space where her watch once sat, a habit, a grounding. The sketchbook left behind haunts her, a symbol of the peace they stole. But as the car hums through the streets, her resolve crystallizes. I'm not letting this go, Sarah, she says, her eyes fixed on the road. Not this time. Sarah nods, her jaw tight. What's the plan, she asks, Lena's lips curved, not quite a smile. We fight, she says, with everything we've got. The words settle between them, heavy with promise. Lena's shadow stretches across the dashboard, long and unyielding, as the city hums around her. The park, the cuffs, the sneers, they're not the end. They're the beginning. Lena Harper's apartment is a sanctuary of muted colors and soft edges nestled in Atlanta's midtown. Bookshelves line the living room, their spines worn from years of study and solace. A single lamp casts a warm glow over her desk, where legal pads and a laptop hum with purpose. It's past midnight, the city's pulse a faint throb beyond her window. Lena sits, her braided hair loosened, cascading over her shoulders. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, but her eyes are distant, replaying the park, the officer's sneers, the handcuffs bite, the sketchbook abandoned on the grass. Her wrist, still tender from the cuffs, aches as she types, but she presses on. The humiliation lingers, a bruise on her soul, yet it fuels her. She's no stranger to prejudice. Decades in law have shown her its many faces, but this time it's personal. The charges resisting an arrest, obstructing an officer, are flimsy, a weak scaffolding of lies. Lena knows this, but she also knows the system's weight, how it bends toward those in uniform. Her lawsuit against officers Reynolds and Holt isn't just about her. It's about every black face misjudged, every voice silenced. She drafts her complaint with precision, each word a brick in a wall of accountability. Her desk is strewn with notes, a coffee mug cold from neglect. The city skyline glitters through the window, its lights a silent chorus of support. Sarah Nguyen arrives at dawn, her knock sharp against the quiet. She carries a bag of bagels and a fierce determination. You didn't sleep, she says, eyeing the shadows under Lena's eyes. Lena shrugs, her lips twitching. Sleep's overrated. Sarah sets the food down, her gaze softening. You're not alone in this, Lena. You know that, right? Lena nods, but her throat tightens. Alone or not, the weight is hers to carry. The viral video changes everything. The young woman from the park, Aisha, posted it online, and it's spreading like wildfire. Lena watches it on her laptop, her breath catching. The footage is raw, her calm voice, the officer's aggression, the crowd's murmurs. You don't belong here, Reynolds sneers on screen, and Lena's fingers curl into fists. The comments flood in. This is disgusting. She's so composed. Justice for her. By noon, the video has thousands of shares, hashtags trending. Hashtag Justice for Lena lights up Atlanta's digital veins, a beacon for the outraged and the hopeful. Lena's phone buzzes relentlessly, colleagues, reporters, strangers. She ignores most, but one message stops her cold. A community organizer named Malik inviting her to a town hall. Your story matters, he writes. People need to hear it. Lena hesitates, her instinct to retreat, warring with a growing fire. She's always fought in courtrooms, not public squares, but this feels different. Some truths linger, waiting to be unveiled. She thinks the phrase a quiet echo from the park. She meets Malik at a coffee shop near Clark Atlanta University. He's young, earnest, his dreadlocks tied back, his eyes alight with purpose. The video's waking people up, he says, leaning forward. But it's your voice they need. Lena sips her tea, the chamomile soothing her nerves. I'm a lawyer, not a speaker, she says, but her voice wavers, betraying her doubt. Malik smiles. You're both, you just don't know it yet. The town hall is held in a community center, its walls adorned with murals of civil rights heroes. Lena stands at the podium, her gray blazer sharp against the room's warmth. The crowd is diverse: students, elders, families united by a shared hunger for change. She grips her notes, her palms damp. I was sketching in Piedmont Park, she begins, her voice low but clear. I was minding my business when two officers decided I didn't belong. The room leans in, hanging on her words. She describes the arrest, the cuffs, the sneers, her tone steady but laced with pain. They saw my skin before they saw me, she says, and a murmur ripples through the crowd. A woman in the front row, her hair streaked with gray stands. I've been stopped too, she says, her voice trembling. For nothing, just existing. Others nod, their stories spilling forth like a dam breaking. Lena listens, her chest tight. She's not alone, but the realization is both comfort and burden. We're stronger together, she says, the words unplanned but true. The crowd erupts in applause, their energy a living thing. Back home, Lena's resolve hardens. She meets with her legal team, a small but fierce group of colleagues who share her fire. They pore over precedents, dissect the officers' records, and strategize. Sarah, ever practical, pulls up a file. Reynolds has a history, she says. Complaints, but no discipline. Lena's eyes narrow. That ends. Now she says, her voice a blade. They work late, the city's hum, a distant lullaby. Lena's sketchbook retrieved by a park worker and returned to her sits on the desk, its willow tree unfinished, but present, a reminder of what she's fighting for. The community's support grows, spilling onto the streets. A small protest forms outside the police station, signs reading, Justice for Lena and End Racial Profiling. Lena watches the news coverage, her heart swelling and sinking. She wants change, not chaos, but she knows the line is thin. Malik calls, his voice urgent. You're a symbol now, he says. People are looking to you. Lena exhales, her fingers tracing the sketchbook's edge. I didn't ask for this, she says, but she knows it's too late to turn back. Her law firm hesitates, wary of the spotlight. A senior partner, Richard, calls her in. His office is all glass and steel, a stark contrast to her cluttered desk. This case could hurt our reputation, he says, his tone measured. Lena meets his gaze, her jaw tight. It's not just a case, she says. It's a precedent. Richard leans back, studying her. You're sure about this? He asks. Lena's nod is firm. I've never been surer. That night alone, Lena stands at her window, the skyline a tapestry of light and shadow. The viral video plays on her phone, Aisha's footage, a mirror to her pain. She thinks of the town hall, the woman's trembling voice, Malik's earnest eyes. Her wrist aches, a faint bruise lingering. She closes her eyes, the willow tree vivid in her mind, its branches swaying unbroken. The fight is bigger now, and she's ready. The Atlanta skyline glimmers under a bruised evening sky, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Lena Harper stands in her apartment, the glow of her laptop casting shadows across her face. The viral video of her arrest, now viewed over 1 million times, has become a rallying cry. Comments flood in, some filled with outrage, others with stories that echo her own. Lena scrolls through them, her chest tight with a mix of gratitude and burden. She's no longer just an attorney fighting a personal battle. She's a beacon for a city weary of injustice. Her sketchbook lies open on the desk, the willow tree's branches a quiet reminder of the peace she's yet to reclaim. Her fingers trace its edges, grounding her as the weight of expectation settles in. The community's fervor spills into the streets. Protests swell outside City Hall, where signs demand accountability and reform. Lena watches the coverage on her phone, her lips pressed thin. Malik, the organizer, texts her, "You're giving people hope. Keep going." She wants to, but doubt creeps in. Can one lawsuit shift a system so deeply rooted? She pushes the thought aside, her resolve a flickering flame. Some truths linger waiting to be unveiled. She thinks the phrase a steady pulse in her mind. Her legal team gathers at a midtown cafe, its walls lined with local art. Sarah Nguyen spreads files across the table, her eyes sharp. Reynolds and Holt have 3 prior complaints each, she says, tapping a document. Excessive force racial profiling swept under the rug. Lena's jaw tightens, her coffee untouched. "They thought I'd be another footnote," she says, her voice low. Her colleague, Jamal, a young attorney with a fire matching hers, leans forward. "Not this time," he says. "We've got the video, the witnesses. We're building a case they can't ignore." Lena nods, but her gaze drifts to the window where Atlanta's evening hum carries a restless energy. The officer's defense team strikes back. A motion to dismiss her lawsuit lands on Lena's desk, claiming the arrest was standard procedure. The words burn a calculated dismissal of her truth. Sarah slams the document down. "They're stalling," she says, "trying to wear you out." Lena's eyes narrow, her fingers curling around her pen. "They don't know me," she says, her voice a quiet blade. She spends nights dissecting the motion, her apartment a fortress of legal pads and highlighters. The willow tree in her sketchbook watches its branches, a silent witness to her fight. Lena's visibility brings new challenges. Reporters camp outside her office, their cameras glinting like predators. She declines interviews, her focus unwavering, but the scrutiny stings. At a grocery store, a stranger recognizes her. "You're that lawyer," the woman says, her voice hushed. "Thank you for fighting." Lena manages a smile, but her shoulders tense. The praise is a double-edged sword, amplifying her purpose while tightening the pressure. She buys her groceries, milk bread, a sketch pencil, and hurries home, the city's eyes on her back. She speaks at another town hall, this one at a church in southwest Atlanta. The pews are packed, the air thick with anticipation. Lena stands at the pulpit, her blazer swapped for a simple sweater, her braided hair gleaming under the lights. "This isn't just about me," she says, her voice steady but warm. "It's about every time we're judged before we're known." The crowd nods, their faces a mosaic of pain and hope. A young man, barely 20, stands. "They stopped me last week," he says, his voice cracking. "For walking home. What do we do?" Lena's throat tightens. "We keep speaking," she says. "We keep fighting." The room erupts, their applause a living thing. But the fight takes its toll. Late at night alone, Lena sits on her couch, the city's hum, a distant lullaby. She replays the arrest, the officer's sneers, the cuffs, the crowd stares. Her wrist, now healed, still feels the phantom ache. She thinks of her mother, a school teacher, who faced her own battles in the 80s, whispering, "Hold your head high, Lena." The memory steadies her, but exhaustion creeps in. She sketches absent-mindedly, the willow tree growing darker, its branches heavier. A new obstacle emerges, her firm's hesitation. Richard, the senior partner, calls her into his office again. His tone is cautious, his eyes avoiding hers. "The partners are concerned," he says. "This case is drawing too much heat." Lena's fingers clench, but her voice is calm. "This isn't about heat," she says. "It's about right." Richard sighs, rubbing his temple. "Just be careful, Lena. You're risking a lot." She nods, but her eyes burn with defiance. Careful isn't an option, not now. Malik invites her to a rally, but Lena hesitates. She's a lawyer, not a figurehead, and the spotlight feels foreign. Yet she goes, standing at the edge of the crowd, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. The energy is electric, voices chanting for justice. A girl no older than 15 approaches her. "You're Ms. Harper, right?" she asks, her eyes wide. "You're why I want to be a lawyer." Lena's breath catches, her heart swelling. "Keep that fire," she says, her voice soft. The girl beams, and Lena feels a spark reignite. Her team uncovers a key witness, a park jogger, who saw the arrest and corroborates Lena's account. The woman, Claire, is nervous but resolute. "They targeted her," Claire says, her voice firm. "No reason, just her." Lena meets Claire at a quiet diner, the air thick with grease and gratitude. "Thank you," Lena says, her eyes meeting Claire's. "You're risking a lot." Claire shrugs, her smile wry. "So are you." The exchange lingers, a thread of solidarity in the storm. As the lawsuit gains traction, the officer's arrogance frays. Lena hears whispers of their unease meetings with their union, late-night calls with their lawyer. She imagines their faces, the smugness fading, but she pushes the thought aside. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. Her apartment hums with purpose, the willow tree in her sketchbook, a quiet sentinel. She works late, her lamp a lone beacon in the dark, the city's skyline a silent ally. The Atlanta courthouse looms under a heavy morning sky, its stone facade catching the first glints of sunlight. Inside, the air hums with anticipation, a low buzz of whispers and shuffled papers. Lena Harper steps into the courtroom, her black judge's robe flowing like a quiet river. At 53, she carries herself with a grace that commands silence, her braided hair pinned neatly, her eyes sharp with purpose. Today, she presides over a misconduct hearing for two officers, Mark Reynolds and David Holt, the same men who arrested her months ago in Piedmont Park. The irony is a weight she feels but does not show. Her sketchbook, tucked away in her chambers, holds the willow tree, its branches a silent witness to her journey. She takes her seat at the bench, the gavel cool in her hand, and surveys the room. The crowd is packed, reporters, activists, citizens drawn by whispers of this unexpected twist. Reynolds and Holt sit at the defendant's table, their uniforms crisp, but their faces strained. Reynolds, his jaw tight, avoids Lena's gaze, his fingers tapping nervously. Holt younger shifts in his seat, his eyes darting to the crowd then back to the floor. They expected a routine hearing, another slap on the wrist for excessive force in an unrelated case. Instead, they face her, the woman they humiliated, now holding their fate. Lena's expression is unreadable, her professionalism a shield. She knows the power of this moment, but revenge is not her aim. Justice is. This court is now in session, she says, her voice clear, cutting through the room's tension. The crowd settles, their eyes fixed on her. Some truths linger, waiting to be unveiled. She thinks the phrase a quiet anchor, as it has been since the park. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Carla, begins outlining the case. A traffic stop turned violent, a young man, Jamal Carter, tackled without cause. The defendant's actions were reckless. Carla says, her tone measured but firm. They abused their authority, leaving a trail of harm. Lena listens, her pen gliding across her notepad, each word a brick in the case's foundation. The officer's lawyer, a man with slicked back hair and a practiced smile, counters. Your Honor, my clients acted under pressure, he says. The situation escalated beyond their control. Lena's gaze flickers to him, her eyes narrowing slightly. She's heard these excuses before in courtrooms in her own arrest. Her wrist, long healed, carries a phantom ache, a reminder of their arrogance. She nods for him to continue, her face impassive, but the room feels the weight of her presence. Reynolds is called to testify. He stands, his posture rigid, and swears the oath. His voice wavers as Carla questions him. Officer Reynolds, did you believe tackling Mr. Carter was necessary, she asks. Reynolds hesitates, his eyes flicking to Lena, then away. At the time, yes, he says, his tone unconvincing. It felt threatening. Carla presses her voice sharp. Threatening how? He was unarmed, compliant. Explain. Reynolds falters, his hands clenching. I made a call, he mumbles the words hollow. The crowd murmurs, sensing his weakness. Holt's testimony is no better. He tries to justify the incident, but his excuses unravel under Carla's scrutiny. We followed protocol, he insists, but his voice cracks, betraying his doubt. Lena watches, her expression still, but her mind races. She sees herself in Jamal Carter, judged, dismissed, reduced to a stereotype. The willow tree flashes in her thoughts, its branches swaying unbroken. She shifts her gaze to the crowd, catching Aisha's eyes, the young woman whose video sparked this fight. Aisha nods, a silent tether of strength. During a recess, the officers huddle with their lawyer in the hallway, their voices low but agitated. How is she? The judge. Reynolds hisses, his face flushed. This is a setup. Holt shakes his head, his eyes wide. It's no setup. It's her. Their lawyer, exasperated, snaps focus. She's not the enemy, your actions are. But the officers barely hear him, their confidence eroding. Lena in her chambers sips water, her hands steady, but her heart racing. She knows impartiality is her duty, but the irony of this moment burns. She thinks of her mother's words. Hold your head high, Lena. She straightens, ready to return. Back in court, the prosecutor calls Jamal Carter to the stand. He's 22, slight but defiant. his eyes carrying a weariness beyond his years. He recounts the traffic stop, his voice steady but laced with pain. They didn't listen, he says. I said I wasn't resisting, but they slammed me down anyway. The crowd leans in their silence heavy. Lena's pen pauses, her chest tight. She sees herself in the park, her own voice ignored. Did you provoke them? Carla asks. Jamal shakes his head. No, ma'am, I just wanted to go home. His words land like a gavel, final and true. The defense lawyer tries to twist Jamal's story, but the young man holds firm. You raised your voice, didn't you? The lawyer presses. Jamal's eyes flash. I was scared, he says. Wouldn't you be? The crowd stirs a ripple of agreement. Lena's face remains unreadable, but her notes are meticulous, capturing every detail. She glances at Reynolds and Holt, their heads bowed, their arrogance crumbling. The room feels smaller, the air thick with the weight of truth. As the day wears on, the evidence mounts, witnesses' body cam footage, Jamal's bruises documented in stark photos. The prosecutor's closing is fierce. Your Honor, these officers betrayed their oath. This isn't one mistake, it's a pattern. The defense's response is weak, a string of cliches about split-second decisions. Lena listens, her gavel resting before her. It's wood-worn, but solid. She adjourns the hearing, her voice steady. We will reconvene tomorrow for the ruling, she says. The gavel strikes a sound that echoes in the officers' bones. Reynolds and Holt linger as the crowd files out, their faces pale. Reynolds meets Lena's gaze for a moment, his eyes flickering with something: regret, fear, shame. He opens his mouth then closes it, turning away. Holt follows, his shoulders slumped. Lena organizes her notes, her movements deliberate. The courtroom empties, but its energy lingers, a storm held at bay. She thinks of the park, the cuffs, the sketchbook. This moment, this power is not revenge, it's accountability, the kind she's fought for her entire career. Outside, reporters swarm, their questions a barrage. Lena slips through a side exit, her robe folded in her bag. Sarah waits in the parking lot, her car idling. You okay? She asks, her voice soft. Lena nods, but her eyes are distant. It's not about me, she says. It's about what comes next. Sarah smiles, faint but proud. You're changing things, Lena. You know that, right? Lena doesn't answer, her gaze on the city's horizon where the skyline meets the dawn. The Atlanta courthouse stands solemn under a dawn sky, its stone walls softened by the first light of morning. The courtroom fills slowly, a quiet hum of anticipation threading through the crowd. Lena Harper ascends the bench. Her judge's robe, a mantle of authority, its black folds catching the soft glow of overhead lights. Her face is calm, her braided hair pinned with precision, but her eyes carry the weight of the past months. The park, the cuffs, the viral video, the fight. Today she delivers her ruling in the misconduct case against officers Mark Reynolds and David Holt. A moment that feels both personal and universal. Her sketchbook, safe in her chambers, holds the willow tree, its branches now complete, in her mind swaying with quiet triumph. She grips the gavel, its wood a steady anchor, and calls the court to order. The room stills, every seat taken, activists, reporters, citizens, their faces a tapestry of hope and tension. Reynolds and Holt sit at the defendant's table, their uniforms stiff, their expressions hollow. Reynolds stares at his hands, his knuckles white. Holt's gaze darts to the crowd, searching for an escape that isn't there. Lena's voice cuts through the silence, measured but resonant. The role of law enforcement is to serve with integrity, she begins. When that trust is broken, the harm ripples far beyond the moment. Her words settle over the room, heavy with truth. Some truths linger, waiting to be unveiled. She thinks the phrase a final echo of her journey. She outlines the evidence, Jamal Carter's testimony, the body cam footage, the pattern of complaints against the officers. Officers Reynolds and Holt acted with reckless disregard. She says, her tone firm, but not harsh. Their actions reflect a failure to uphold the principles they swore to protect. The crowd leans in, their breath held. Lena's pen rests on her notepad, in its ink a record of every word spoken, every pain laid bare. She thinks of Jamal, his trembling voice, and of herself cuffed in the park, her dignity tested. The willow tree sways in her mind, its roots deep, unyielding. Her ruling is deliberate: 6-month suspensions without pay, mandatory retraining with a focus on de-escalation and bias awareness, and permanent disciplinary marks on their records. This is not punishment for punishment's sake, she says, her eyes sweeping the room. It is accountability, a step toward rebuilding trust. The gavel strikes a sound that reverberates in the officers' bones and the crowd's hearts. Reynolds flinches, his head bowing. Holt's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. The crowd exhales a mix of relief and resolve, their murmurs a soft undercurrent. As the room clears, Reynolds lingers, his steps hesitant. He approaches the bench, his voice barely audible. "Your Honor," he says, his eyes meeting hers for the first time. "I, I'm sorry." The words are small, raw, a crack in his armor. Lena nods, her face unreadable. Change starts with actions, not words. She says, her tone even, but piercing. Reynolds nods, his shoulders slumping as he turns away. Holt follows their footsteps, heavy, their authority diminished. Lena watches them go, her heart steady but not untouched. This is justice, not vengeance, a distinction she's carried since the park. Outside, the morning air is crisp, the city waking to a new day. Lena stands on the courthouse steps, her robe folded, her blazer sharp against the dawn. A small group of activists gathers, their signs tucked away, their faces alight with gratitude. Aisha, the woman whose video sparked this fire, approaches her phone, now just a phone. "You did it," she says, her voice thick. Lena shakes her head, a faint smile breaking through. "We did it," she says. Aisha's eyes glisten, and for a moment they stand in shared silence, the city's pulse a quiet ally. That evening, Lena attends a community meeting at a rec center in Vine City. The room is warm, filled with voices. Elders sharing stories, youth asking questions, families holding hands. Lena sits among them, no longer the judge or the victim, just Lena. An older woman, her hair silver, grips her hand. "You gave us hope," she says, her voice trembling. Lena's throat tightens, her mother's words echoing. "Hold your head high, Lena. We're not done," she says, her voice soft but firm. "This is just the start." The case ripples beyond Atlanta. News outlets carry the story, sparking debates on reform. Community leaders meet with police, drafting proposals for transparency and training. Lena speaks at a local college, her words simple but powerful. "Justice isn't a moment, it's a movement." Students nod, their phones down, their eyes bright with purpose. She thinks of the girl at the rally, the one who dreamed of law school, and feels a quiet pride. The willow tree, now vivid in her mind, stands tall, its branches reaching for the sky. Lena's apartment is quiet that night. The cities hum a gentle lullaby. She sits at her desk, her sketchbook open. The willow tree stares back at its lines, bold, complete. She traces its branches, her fingers steady. The fight has changed her, not hardened, but deepened like roots, finding richer soil. She thinks of the park, the cuffs, the courtroom, and the faces at the rec center. In a nation built on second chances, she's carved a space for accountability, for dignity, for hope. The skyline glimmers through her window, its lights a constellation of possibility. She closes the sketchbook, her heart full, her purpose clear. The work continues, but tonight she rests, her shadow long and unbroken.